How's everyone doing? Thank God Marios did the photo then, because I did threaten him that we were going to start trying to get the energy levels up. And then you may have had to witness us dancing, which would have been a scary sight. Anyway, wow, great to be here and closing the session today. Honored to be sitting alongside our Italian representation here with Stefano from Juventus. Welcome.
Thank you.
And Amanda, coming here from Brazil, Poland.
Good afternoon.
So just quickly, I'm Jacqueline Smith-Dubendorfer. I am a co-founder of GENSport, a business dedicated to working with investors and rights holders to look at and explore opportunities to unlock new commercial models and really try and explore how we can bring growth and innovation to the women's game, specifically women's football, but across all sports. Prior to GENSport, I've spent the last 2 decades working with international brands like Adidas, Nike, Porsche, helping them navigate change, helping them to look at new consumer models, unlock new commercial strategies, and really help them invest and transform digitally and with a strong consumer lens as well. So bringing a lot of that sporting background and context from consumer brands into the world of sport, and like yourselves, all deeply passionate about the women's specific field and the opportunities that lie there. So in today's session, I'm going to be poking a little bit on what the real opportunities are, and I hope Stefano and Amanda can help me to not only share stories, but also be concrete around actions and what can we actually do in order to really get after this opportunity that we all seem so convinced is there. Stefano, our topic today is what will it really take in women's football and leagues to not only grow sustainably, but to reimagine their future. You are coming from an established giant at Juventus, and Amanda's coming from an emerging market. I'd love to spend some time understanding a little bit firstly from your perspective, your story. Maybe introduce yourselves to the audience here would be great.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon to everyone. And of course, it's a big pleasure, a big honor for me to be in here. The women's football story in our club started in 2017 when the former president decided to open the women's session. That was, our club has a long story of centuries in men's football, but in 2017 we had the chance to start with women's football. At that time I was running the men's academy after more than 20 years in men's football. And so for the first season, under the control of the men's academy, we have a women's team. And then the story went quite well. We grew up very, very fast. So after a couple of years, the president asked me to find someone to run the women's section. And I told him that he has to find someone to run the men's academy because I want to stay on the women's side. He was a bit shocked because it's not so common, at least in our country. But I thought that the opportunity was so big. First of all, working with women's athletes means that I felt again this kind of passion and that I felt at the real beginning of my career in the early 90s, because I'm not too young, as you can see from my white beard. And so for me it was a new challenge, and I thought a brighter future for women's football. That's why I make this quite unexpected choice from my club. And from that day we enjoyed a lot the journey. We had very good results. We signed very good coaches like Joe for a while. And so we had very good time together. And now, we are arrived at a point where we are ranked in the top 10 in Europe. That is quite unexpected for an Italian women's football club. Now we have to change with the big giants of football, not only for money, but also for a long tradition and story of the game. And so the new challenge is to try to find some way around to be competitive with these big giants, maybe with alternative way of sustainability, alternative way of recruitment, and an alternative philosophy. Otherwise, if you challenge with money, we are loser from day one, especially now that, as you be probably all aware, in the last transfer window, the transfer fees start getting crazy, big spenders are coming, and so NWSL starts looking in Europe with more interest than once, because they have this problem of raising also the football side of their business, because marketing-wise they are huge, but the football-wise, probably in Europe they can find something very helpful for their growth. So now the new challenge is to be competitive in this new environment of the market. And we have also invested a lot in our academy. I remember that the first day when the federation asked to all the professional clubs in Italy in 2015 to have a women's academy, we don't have any girl registered for us, so we make a sort of open day. And this open day, there were 3 girls, one was wearing flip-flops and the other 2 wearing football boots. And now after 8 years, we have 200 girls playing in professional environments. So this means probably we did a good job, probably, but it's not enough. It's also because the game is growing very fast. And I think that the prejudice that in our country, that is quite a traditional country, would say like that, is going weaker and weaker every season. And now for an Italian girl, it's quite normal to choose football instead of volleyball or basketball, something that 5, 6 years ago was quite difficult to convince the family to do that. So this is the really change of perspective that we had in our country. There are still a lot of barriers, and I'm used to say to my staff that we have to make these barriers becoming bridges instead of walls, and try to get through the problem.
Thank you, Stefano. Great perspective. And obviously coming from the performance side, moving over now to yourself as a former player and now responsible at Legia, it would be great to hear from you a little bit about you and your perspective.
Yeah, I think, first of all, good afternoon, everyone. For you to understand a little bit also the aspects and the ideas we have in Legia, you need to understand also a little bit of my story. Obviously, I come from Brazil. My brother was a professional football player, Premier League in Brazil, very famous, very successful. 10 years older, we were playing on the same team, and he was earning a lot of money per month, and I was earning probably 10,000 times less. And I was 14 years old, and that was the moment I decided to give my life to women's football so that other women don't have to pass for it. So, long story made short, going to study in the United States and seeing, yes, NWSL, which at that moment, it wasn't even right established, but just the presence of the college, the NCAA, and all of this environment taught me a lot when I was there as a teenager playing soccer. And I go back to Brazil. My husband is Polish. We move over to Poland, which I'm really grateful for, to a country that, just like Italy, is very traditional in football. We have the worst ultras in Europe, probably. There's a lot of people that don't like Legia supporters, except Chelsea supporters that did a stand ovation for them when we were at the stadium. And I'm talking about the men's team. So when I came into Legia to play and work, because I had to, as a reality of women's football, I had to do both at once, and I had a 6-month-old baby, so I had to get a job. I had the pleasure of meeting Dariusz Mioduski, which is the owner of Legia Warsaw, and his vision was already 20 years from now. So we spoke and we clicked, obviously. So the whole idea, and I'm really happy to say that from all the panels we heard today, I think Legia Ladies grab a little bit of everything, right? I remember about Monique saying in the first panel, for example, that you need to try, is a startup, right? So we are trying. We open a separated company, And here I will poke Joe a little bit. I know you're really tired of saying it's a different sport, but in our way, it wasn't about the sport on the pitch. We wanted to segregate as a different sport from the audience, from the marketing, from the commercial. So we create a separate entity in which Legia Ladies is a different name, is a different logo, it's a different color. It's still proud of the DNA in Legia Warsaw. We still completely merge, and we have an office at the stadium, but we are ourselves. And the biggest challenge that we face now, especially because I know Stefano have challenges worrying about being top 10. We are still on the first league, having to be promoted to Premier League in Poland, is doing from the zero, basically, as a startup, creating our identity, communicating that to the people, educating the people. So all the things we've spoken about today is a little bit of what we're doing, and it's super nice to see how this is a little bit of the future, a little bit of the present and future, how we gonna get there, right? So fast forward today, we are first on the league as of today. So promotion is looking good. So we'll be finally able to, compete on the highest levels. But for us, just football is not enough. We are really keen about lifestyle. We're really keen about the story of the players. We're really keen in giving those players a platform. So we call sometimes our club not a sports club, but a marketing agency. We like to joke a modeling agency, because we like to use our players for all of our photo shoots. We don't hire people from outside. And the biggest example I can give is the transfer players from this year that we got. We gave them a closet. We said, choose the clothes you want to wear. We're gonna give you a direction, but you need to bring your personality. And some girls was like, oh, I want to wear a skirt. Some girls are jewelry. And some girls like, I don't wear anything that is not oversized. It's like, okay, there you go. And they felt so extremely comfortable that maybe perhaps you can go in our Instagram and take a look at these photos. It looks like from a fashion show. One of the goalkeeper, literally, everybody was saying, wow, she looks like a Burberry a model. And these are our players that we are genuinely interested in being their platform that people know. And that's how we think that in Poland, which is extremely traditional, we're gonna get those sisters, those young girls that will look, wow, if she can do this, I can do that. And not just in football, it can be in volleyball, it can be in basketball. So yeah, we are trying to take it on the chest. It's a lot to take, but clubs are following, this is really nice.
I love it. I love it. I saw the photography that you did. I was just wonderful to see reimagining, the athlete in a different way and giving them really the opportunity to shine and not follow the traditional sort of thumbs up or standard pose. I've heard so many terrible stories about the photography going on in the women's game. Just by nature of it hasn't been prioritized and set up in the right way. But we'll leave that for a moment. I think, we've heard throughout the sessions today the importance of not just short-term views, but really looking and also committing to the long-term. Testing, learning, and doing immediate, I agree with you, action now, building from the bottom up, taking small steps, but also making sure there's a big gap in terms of long-term strategy and commitments as well. And looking at the two, and I think if I look to you, Stefano, you've very fortunate to have an owner who has a long-term vision, which is, if you've got it from the top down, you've already broken some of the most difficult barriers. But if I look at you, Stefano, you're delivering right now performance on the field. You've walked away with a double domestic cup, top of the Serie A. How do you look to your counterparts in the commercial side, in the business side, off the field, and say, look, I'm delivering on the field, but you can't compete on the investment side, but I still need to be able to invest in my players. How do you work with them, and what are they doing for you, and how are they helping to contribute towards that long-term off-field success whilst you are delivering the on-field success?
No, it's a tough challenge, because, we are a very emotional country. So in Italy, even on the men's side, the results of the team has a huge impact also on the business activities, development and revenues. This is something that I felt that, for example, in Premier League doesn't happen so heavily. They did a very good job and split the value of the brand and the marketing economical activities from the sports side. In Italy, the day after a game, if you win or if you have lost, makes a difference. In other country, maybe some people don't even know how was the game the day before. So we have to face this problem because that is fantastic when you win, because it's a huge atmosphere wherever you go. And
thank you for saying.
okay,
Okay.
my
The new
friend.
AI system.
And so this is not easy. Of course, we try to. Our goal would be to split a little bit the value of the project, the value of the Juventus Women's brand from the results. It's a big challenge in our country. We are trying to do that. We have a very professional counterparts, so they are very good in doing that. But this is still something that we have to face every week. So being successful, at least so far, help us a lot to open a lot of doors, and it's both on, let's say, big brands that are trying to approach us, understand how it works, and also on social media. We have a huge growth in social media. Now we are the 7th club in the world for followers. We don't have X, we use only TikTok. TikTok made a documentary on our club. The first 1 hour long documentary of TikTok has been realized with our team. So we try to go to all those platforms and to have this kind of counterparts that in some way are not so related to the sports performance. Otherwise, as soon as you approach this kind of companies, the Sunday afternoon matters more than what it has to matter.
What are your thoughts on that, Amanda? Just
Yeah.
out of interest, what he's explained there.
Yeah, I'm eager to join in the conversation. I think you're absolutely right, and I think women's football has the great space to do this. So when we are talking about, and today also about building community, about targeting the Generation Z that don't necessarily care about sports results, they are more into politics, they are more into not drinking, they are more into a totally different fan experience. I mean, they support their favorite players, they don't support their clubs. So I think we need to be really intelligent and separating this fine line. Okay, in Legia, if we lose, we are down with revenue, sales, people will boycott, they will do strikes, they will not buy our jerseys. But in Legia Ladies, people know that these girls are fighting for their lives. They know that they sometimes, because we do have professional contracts, but we still have some semi-pro contracts. So some girls will work the whole day and practice in the evening, right? The same for the match. So the supporters go to see this passion. And many people say, girls, keep going. It's a support because they know this is for the good. I know it's no charity in here, but there is a different sense of understanding. If you win, you lose, but we're going forward as a sport. So how even some parents would behave on a Legia match, on the Legia Ladies match, it's totally different. And we, from the beginning, we set up like this, like one of our biggest allies in the league, it's Lech Poznan, which is the main rival of the men's team. And a funny fact is that when we were having our derby, the match at home, I remember this email between us and security guards saying, okay, what do you want us to do? Block the flags, block this, block, block. I'm like, no, guys, calm down. Everybody needs to come. Everybody bring, if they want to bring their drums, if they want to bring their everything. We treat this differently. And I remember still today, we hire a lot of security people for the match, just in case. But the result was amazing. People were then talking about how, you know, Barcelona and Real Madrid, you can walk freely with your jersey, and why we don't do that. So even you, with a small jest, you can start changing your organization, the culture, and make people think in a different way, you know?
I love it. This has gone. Okay, I've gone off again. Is that working? Yes, okay, sorry. I think you tap into something that I'm deeply passionate about as well, is the changing brand and fan relationship that you have between Juventus as a symbol and Legia as well. And you have a unified identity, men's and women's, but already starting to look at ways to differentiate and reach out and connect in different ways. You have actually carved out a separate identity to move away and create a place where people have affinity to and can build a relationship with, that is separate to the ultras side, where you said from the conversations we've had already, it makes people feel more comfortable, they can connect to it better. I want to get into a little bit, because one of the things we haven't really touched on is, we've touched a little bit on fan experience. We haven't really gone into content and storytelling as such. And I think this is one of the things that I think is particularly what we're seeing more and more now, that the men's game is doing, but I think is a phenomenal opportunity for women's, because women's are great storytellers, given the tools, the education, the support, and the security, right, to feel safe as well, which I think was a really important topic earlier, is about being able to tell those stories, that narrative, your TikTok story, and all the things you're doing. I'd love to understand, on a performance side, what does that feel like, having your players? Is it a distraction? Is it a positive? How do you see that direction going, Stefano?
I mean, had a quite long experience in the men's side, where was this kind of interaction was a bit banned by the coaches and by sometimes also the players. On the women's side, it's completely different. We are really open to any kind of initiative that can come out from the people of the club, of the marketing side. In our club, we have special structures that called Creator Lab, where we create contents for all our social media. And this is where has been developed also the documentary. We made some documentary on one of our players, for example, speaking about personal stories, was Gunnar's daughter. When she played with us, we had a documentary on her story of being mother and player at the same time, top player at the same time. We made stories about our players that are always stories of revenge, coming back. Nobody wants that you play football and then you can reach certain levels. So we are really open. The people of our Creator Lab travel usually with us on the bus, in the plane, in the hotel, on the pitch. So I'm very open to that, because, I mean, we are not in the condition to put barriers if we want to develop the game. I'm against barriers in any case, so probably I would make the same also on the men's side, even maybe would be a bit more difficult. But here on the women's side, I can decide on my own. So we are really open to any marketing initiative, and the people of marketing and creators share their time with us. They're part of the team. We know them. We celebrate with them. They receive the awards when we win. They have their medal. We are all part of a big family, and we have to think about that, because at the end, this is a game that has to be developed, and any door you shut, you lose an opportunity.
I think what I love is the fact you're saying that in the men's, there's stricter governance and rules and regulations around what can be done, whereas in women's, we really have the opportunity. Those barriers don't exist yet. We talk about other barriers and what's stopping us, but there are so many things that are actually opportunities that we need to capture and get after, because especially in Italy, you've got Como that's coming out with a very different proposition, designing for the future, bringing new ideas, new propositions to the market. You've got Venezia doing some interesting stuff, like really challenging what is a traditional market, but with some very creative, innovative, different thinking, and breaking down that sort of tunnel vision system of always doing things. So I think it's really interesting there. Before I go to Amanda, is anything else you wanted to say on that?
No, I agree with you. To be honest, I can tell you that even though we are in a big and traditional club, we are a lot of space to do this kind of initiative. Also, bearing in mind that we have a different target of fans, because our fans are more family girls. It's completely, I mean, I don't think there is a big overlap between men and women's football supporters in our club. And so, of course, you can also tell other kind of stories, and you feel people that are more open also to listen these stories, because sometimes, you know, on the men's side, it's more about challenging and fighting. And I mean, I'm not a sociologist, so I can tell you more, but this is what I learned in my career. On women's side, you don't have this kind of problem, so you can really speak very openly, and any chance is welcome.
It's interesting, we've had conversations today. I think the consistent belief is that there is the overlap between the men's and women's audiences are actually, anyone here got a different stat? Because I've heard several people today, Joe's been up there, David, we've got various people saying that the overlap between the men's and women's audience is very low. Anyone got different data from their market, their team, their work? Anyone? Hands up? No. Okay, so we're generally in agreement that it is a different audience, just double checking. And I think what you talk about is always, is people are at the core, whether it's the staffing, the employees working in the business, or whether it's the players on the field. They have a huge role to play. Bringing them into the process, making them part of designing the future, coming up with the ideas and solutions is a really, for me, a very important way, and something we're exploring in our business. Amanda, in our conversations, you said something similar. That's what you're doing. It would be lovely to hear more about that.
Yeah, of course. So I want to separate my answer into two segments. The first segment, I want every one of you, probably you heard about it. Fowler was the first football player to walk Paris Fashion Week. So picture that, where we are going. We also solved the campaign. I don't remember now the research, but saying that the new beauty influencers will be female athletes, because they have a huge power to convert, right? No wonder why Sephora is investing in basketball. We have Oriflame from Sweden investing in us. So they are interested in these stories, right? The second part, I want to talk more about data. I was recently on a conference about marketing analysis in Poland. So in Poland, female athletes are more perceived with credibility than men, because they are sympathetic, they are honest and authentic, and they represent maternity. So people tend to rely more on their opinion than the guys, where they were described as ambitious, turning to do this campaign because of money and things like that. So that was a huge gap, and that was said in an innovation festival. It wasn't a sports event, it was for brands. Where should you put your money next? Going forward, what we do in our club, we partner up with agencies. They are influencer agencies. They send us a brief. For example, T-Mobile needs a Christmas campaign online, nothing for television, online. They want Legia Ladies players. So we create the brief for them, we send it back, and then we provide the players. It's kind of like we do our casting. That's why I said we're working as an agency. And we are making and helping and supporting the girls to learn that. And with that, they're learning themselves, because look at Eva Paior. Now she's top 10 in the world, right? But almost no one knew about her before Barcelona. And still, she doesn't work her social media up to the level that she is today. That's the culture in Poland. If you go into most of the national team players in Poland, they have around 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 followers, which is considerably not, but they have a huge voice, and they are different. And that's the difference between if you are a cyclist and you represent yourself, or if you have a team of 11, 22 players, you have 22 characters to play. And you know specific if T-Mobile needs this girl. I'm not trying to say they are objects, but they are persons with stories that you can, look, I have 22 girls that represent different age groups. Some are mothers, some are just starting. So if a bank comes and want to sell a credit for teenagers, we will say, okay, we have a 16-year-old girl that actually just moved to Warsaw. She's looking for an apartment. We are helping her. So she needs a credit. She's the perfect ambassador for your brand. So this is how we are trying to, again, in survival mode, because maybe the Polish market is not completely mature to give us all the money. So we find ways to bring this back, you know. So it's just getting creative in the process.
It's finding relevant partnerships that offer something beyond just pure monetary, but also something that is a real value exchange and a clear match to the situation, which I think is great. And it's funny you touch on about the followers number. I was sitting with my daughter at the weekend getting ready to go to a game, and she's 9 years old. She was on one of the big football apps, scrolling through, and she went through every player and looked at how many followers they had and judged their performance based on the number of followers they had. And I was like, wow, that's a different way to look at it. Okay, just a warning, everyone out there, that there are different metrics being looked at, unfortunately. But we've talked a little bit about what we're doing differently. I think going back into, there's a lot that we can also learn. The man's game is not all bad, okay? There's a lot that has been done well. In your experience, what are the things, the learnings of what has worked well, but also what hasn't worked well, and you going back to what can we learn that hasn't worked to make sure we don't make the same mistakes? What would you say those are from your experience in your career so far?
I think that, I think the women, football is one. It depends, and it's not so important whether it is played by men or women. The only difference is that the men's football started centuries ago, and women's football probably some decades ago. So it's mainly a matter of time. Of course, the biggest mistake we can make is to judge the women's football using the same parameter of men's football, because it's different. But apart from that, I don't see any difference apart from the timing and the long timing more that the men's football have. What we can learn, we can learn from everyone, but probably is in terms of professionality and player care. I would be more focused on that side, no? How they prepare the player for the game, and how much the player are focused on the game and don't have to think about other things. It's more about organization, maybe we can call like that, because at the end, the game is the same, and it's only a matter of timing for me. I don't see any other difference. We can probably bring in men's football some more genuinity and passion, because this is something that is lost. And Joe mentioned the parents of the young players are completely different. I run a men's academy. I work in women's football. I can tell you that it's completely different approach. So yeah, probably we can learn about organization and player care. And I think, and then probably another panel is needed, but I think that we can learn to develop coaches and people that are keen to coach and work in women's football, instead of grabbing people from the men's football, just throwing them in women just because they have more experience. So, because we struggle to find specialists. Specialist doesn't mean that the game is different. It means that you have to do the same thing in a different way. And so probably we have to learn how to develop specialists within our structures.
I think that's a great point. And I think there's a lot of people in here with a lot of expertise. How do we send the lift down and help them, those around us, to specialize and really hone their skills, so that we're not just the 50 people in this room plus, but we create 500 people. So maybe, Marios, one of those things is, coming from this year to next year, how many people are we going to bring with us? Not just us in this room, but how many more people can we train, support, educate, open doors for, enable to cast the net wider and stand shoulder to shoulder, because we're a force to be reckoned with, but we need to get bigger and stronger together. So just throw that one out there. Over to you, Amanda. Curious to
It's a bit hard to add in here. You both said amazing points. So I would rather focus on more overall side, right? I think there is also always a lot to learn and a lot to teach. And I think that men's football, what they did is they created a perfect package. They started with professionalism, as Stefano said, but they have amazing broadcasts. They booked all the television sports, you know. We can compete with that, you know. They have many cameras on the pitch, right? Whether most of the women's match are being filmed in 2 cameras, obviously the match is gonna be slower. That is obvious, but if you have 6 cameras, one that show your head, your spit on the floor, the sweat is so perfectly in an HD, you're already on there, right? So you build it, and I think this is something we need to package better our product, you know. It's almost like fake it till you make it. And because at some point, someone, I don't know, in 1917 or after the war, that's what they did to make the men's football be where it is today, right? So I think it's a lot about broadcasting. It's a lot about quality to make be so nice and so appetite for your eyes that nobody can say, wow, women don't know how to play football, right?
Yeah, no, I think the quality, if you're not broadcast on major TV, the quality of the content captured around the game or the highlights, including the narrating and, you know, the commentating becomes, I mean, there's such a big drop-off, which then makes, obviously, the ability to drive the visibility and attract and engage new audiences and fans so much more difficult.
Can I add one more thing about packaging? You can see why the market now has such a fever for women's football. It is because a lot of people work for a lot of years and now we have the result. But it's also because the media opened for women's football. Look at how many people watching the Euros, you know, watching the World Cup. Look now, EAFC even. This is a funny thing. I go to the office now, the guys are like, oh, I have Alexia Putellas, I have a new, and they know the players, they know their stance, they know where they play. Why? Because on the video game, now we have women, and they get the same emotions, the same thrill, and they're like, oh yeah, I have 7 women on my starting 11, and it's awesome. And they can list them, then it's Ballon d'Or, and they'll follow them, right? It's a process that you make it become natural. Then it is a thing because your friends are talking about it. You don't want to be left out, you know. Now you want to be a specialist in women's sports because that's what they're talking on the office, right? So, yeah.
Wonderful. Love it. I'm going to give, if you don't mind, Stefano, one quick one, right? Because Poland is trying is pitching and hopefully hosting.
Trying hard.
Yes, Euro 29. You know, we've got some calm down things, movements.
No.
Oh, okay, good. No, I mean, we had Andrea up here earlier just talking about the importance of the league's responsibility towards the clubs, etc. I'm really, really curious, how does a national ambition help shape Legia's ambitions and future? And are you feeling positive effects of that? And could you just share a little bit what that looks like?
No, absolutely. Without the federation, we are nothing, basically. We are the biggest brand in Poland when it comes to, I'm talking about men's team, is the most successful Polish club. So obviously we have the target on our backs. Everything we do, people follow, right? So I already told you, we take in our shoulders that we are trying to do something different. It can work or not, but we're trying, and other people are seeing and perhaps following. But if the federation is not there to make the right policies, to make the right moves, we won't be able. To be honest, I'm really glad we lost to Switzerland the first bid because we wouldn't be completely ready. I think 2029 will be perfect curve looking to what is happening with our national league. The Polish FA started a new strategy in 2024 and that will finish in 28. Then you have 29. We also have the Champions League final in 2027. So you have suddenly I tell you guys from a personal experience, because I also played football, and I also had to be an influencer because all of the reasons we spoke in here. I played in some commercials, and guess my biggest rates when it was? Before the men's Euro, before the women's Euro, because that's when the brands wake up. 1 month before, they're like, okay, let's do a commercial with women's football, right? So imagine how many possibilities we'll have in 27 and 29. And then if Poland sees, oh my gosh, we have a fan fest of Adidas, for example, how it was in Basel, and there's so many people, and there are artists, and people from Poland are seeing this, are like, wow, that's women's football, you know, because it's not just Polish people that watch. Obviously, everybody from the whole world come to watch. So yeah, I'm really looking forward, because I think after that we can be considered like, you know, we have a lot of good talents. We were even speaking with our ladies from AC Milan how they love Gosia Mesias, which is a friend of mine. So Poland has a lot of talents, and there are a lot of girls wanting to play because of Eva Pajor. So it's perfect moment.
Perfect. So I will open to the floor for questions. I'm going to be cheeky and push out my 5-minute call because I've got one more for Stefano. Because we're talking very different environments, right? You have an emerging, I mean, you are kind of, you know, the well-established juggernaut. You know, how do you, sitting there with such success on the field, how do you secure in a very competitive environment? I mean, you know, the city, you know, Serie A is not an easy environment. It's a very traditional environment. How do you secure the investment, the resources, the time, the energy that you need to be successful, to have people behind you making sure that you can continue? I mean, you're at the top right now. How do you keep that going? What do you need, and what is your secret sauce?
I don't know, make things simple. Because football is easier than what everyone make it. It's at the end of the story, it's a game. So we don't have to invent anything unless doing easy things. But yeah, I mean, we have a very young staff. I work with most of my staff is under 30. And so I try to transfer them the passion for the game and try to let them be focused on women's football, not just be in Juventus, because one day if I perform well in women's football, I will go to the men's team, but stay there, as I did in my story. And so I think it's a lot about people and how they feel their job and the passion for the game. You know, in our club, we have everything to do things properly. The facilities are very good. You have good investment. The owners is keen to stay on push on our shoulder. So I mean, we don't really. These young guys that are working with me are not missing anything to be the future of the game. Maybe when I started, it was more difficult. You know, something that now is granted one time has to be. You have to fight for having that. So it's just about, for me, people, passion, and being focused on women's game and not using women's game for being one day on the other side of the moon.
Perfect. No, thank you. I think we wish you every luck as well in your challenge, the next chapter of really being one of the top European clubs and really contesting at that level, right? Which is the next chapter, right? As you were saying, that's sort of...
8 years ago, we don't even have a team. We started from the scratch, so after 8 years we are, I don't know, 6, 7 titles, 15 trophies, and a lot of things. So now, you know, the philosophy in our club, if you arrive second, you lost, whether you like it or not. And so we are always looking forward, even though I must say that now probably there is a natural limit, because the 7 club above us in Europe are investing since a long time. Many had also less cultural barriers. But yes, the next challenge is to be the stronger underdogs in the competition. And then, you know, you never know in football. I mean, sometimes the better on the pitch wins, even if they spend less. So this is our challenge, and then we'll see what happens.
Good luck on your challenge. Just don't get better
Thank
than
you.
Arsenal women's, that's all. All right, just put my cards out there. So, are there any questions on the floor? Yes, Monique. There's over there, if you've got a mic. It's on the seat next to Joe, the microphone.
That's okay, I'm accustomed to shouting.
That way it gets recorded.
This one's for my good friend Amanda. Amanda, there's something I'm noticing all of the time around women's football. When we get to what I call blue ribboned events, so UEFA, Champions Cup, the Euros, the World Cup, we see this fantastic uptick. We see this amazing participation. Things go up in schools, things go up in clubs, people buy season tickets. And then, as always, which doesn't happen in men's after blue ribbon events, it goes down for a little bit, and then it stabilizes. And that stabilization becomes the norm, a little bit higher than it was before, but it becomes the norm before we have the next blue ribbon event again. So my question to you is, if you were to look at 3 things that you would say would keep it on the table without us having to do that uptick, downtick, stabilization, which is a pattern that occurs all the time, what would the 3 things be that you would focus on?
Is that an interview question?
No, I mean, I am really interested because I think it's a challenge we all have globally.
I know.
Yes.
I'm joking because there's a very difficult question. I'm wondering,
Yes.
this is for a job at UEFA, for example. That's why I'm joking in here.
Well, if it is for a job, I didn't get it. So that's
Okay. I think this is something that I also realized in Brazil. We had a great moment before, because the women were doing really well at the Olympics and the guys were doing really bad until the moment they lost. So I remember even Neymar shirt with the cross and put Marta. It was a national pride. Everybody was like, oh, I love women's football. They're so better. The guys suck, you know. Sorry for the language, but then they lost, the guys win, and it just did that. We shouldn't invest in women's football. They don't have the mentality. So I know exactly. I think, first of all, is education. We talked a lot about this. It's that this product took years to develop on the men's side, and it will take years in the women's side. I heard once from, oh gosh, is it Mattel from Como a Woman? Mattel? From Mercury 13. Mario, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But I remember his quote, and that's the most important. Women's football is patience capital. And I loved it. And it explains everything. So first is education of this patience, right? Second, I go again into this packaging. And the packaging goes into media, national media, clubs, our responsibility to do the storytelling, like I always say to our social media manager, I want 80 stories in the Instagram today. She's like, Amanda, that's too much. I was like, yes, I want people vomiting Legia Ladies, like until they understand, because we need to be everywhere, right? And the third thing, I really think should be related to each country. You need to hook something in the culture. Whether it's the local, if it's related to national pride, if you do a rebrand that, you know, like the Lionesses did, you know what I mean? That gives all these girls in England a message. The same now with Michelle Kang did with Olympique Lyon. I don't know how to pronounce that in French. Lyon. Lyon. So it's the female lions now. It's not the male lions. And I think this is really important to keep saying, hey, we are super important, and this is how we do things here. So I really hope I answer your question.
Brilliantly. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Anyone else? Great answer, Amanda, I have to say. Very good. I would hire you.
Thank you.
No? No further questions? All right, well then I'll wrap it up. I think, thank you so much. Thank you for all sitting through. What a great day. Thank you, Marios and team, for putting on a spectacular day. And do you want to, am I handing over to you to wrap things up here? Would you like to do that?
Very nicely done, very well finished. Grazie, thank you, thank you. That's all for today, Marios. We do have Alessandro, grazie, Stefano. We do have Alessandro by the photo wall. If you'd like a photo taken, he can send them to you, get them done. He'll be there for the next 10 minutes or so. But that is all. Hope you enjoyed day one. We will commence day two, 10 a.m. So 9:30 arrival, 9:45, maybe 10 a.m. lunch. The 5-minute break day didn't go so well, but we'll see how we go. Enjoy your evening, and we'll see you tomorrow, 10 a.m.